as I was saying, testimony, this is not even my testimony, this is my mother's. But I know my mother always sought after a God-fearing man to be over her. You know, she was always willing to submit to a man. You know, her and my father, they never did marry. You know, long story short, my dad was separated from his first wife, and along came me and my two brothers, my two sisters by the same father. Well, my mother had 7 kids, but just telling the truth, I can't lie. It is what it is. I was created, my sisters were created, and my brothers were created. Glory be to God. It wasn't the perfect upbringing, but it was perfect for me. But my mother and my father never married. But I remember my mom had a husband. His name was Leon Smith. And when they first got to marry together, I used to hear stories like he was real mean, he was abusive, and things of such, and they didn't make her out. I remember my mom was always talking about she always wanted a husband, always wanted a God-fearing man in her life. And towards the end of her life, her prayers were answered. And it was answered in a way that was quite amazing. Along the years, her husband, Leon Smith, had became a pastor. And he had other women in his life, but towards the end, his wife had passed. And I remember he came to my mother. He said God told him to marry her again. I'm like, what? I was so happy for her. You understand? It was a short-lived marriage. Upon marrying her first husband, he fell victim to an illness. He ended up passing. But my mom got her answer. She got her husband that was a pastor in old age. Wow. Amazing. God's timing is not like ours. Am I saying it's going to be like that with everybody's situation? I'm just talking about hers. It also shows that God is a miracle worker. He can make changes. He can change a man that was actually an abusive man into a man that was spirit-filled in the last days of his life. You understand? God's ways are not our ways. And I remember upon the death, my mom was relinquished income through her marriage. And I know people may have thought this and thought that, but I knew my mom was doing exactly what God told her to do. And she fell victim to Alzheimer's, her mind, dementia. Her mind started being short-term memory loss, and she can only recognize her children as children. But it's like God provided a way for her to be taken care of in this time, which goes back to the word, God works all things out together for those who believe, those who love God. So my mom was taken care of through the income of her past husband, and she was blessed to have daughters and sons, mainly the daughters, to help take care of her during those last days. I miss my mother. I don't really talk about her that much, but I miss her. But I learned a lot from her in regards to how to be a follower of Christ. You understand? But she was really at peace when I saw her in the casket. And it's like I knew that she had ceased from her works, because I know she had taught all my brothers and sisters about God and many others. These are nephews. To me, it was a sign of me to take on the mantle. You know, hey, it is what it is. Life and death happen to us all. And I have faith and hope that upon the resurrection, that I will get to see my mother again. I would like to feel the same way about my father too. But I will say this. My father didn't really talk about God that much. I believe he believed, And I believe some people show their faith in different ways, but I hope to see him there too. Hope that he made it or makes it. You understand? Because I felt that he was at peace toward the last days of his life also. I believe he made amends, but I don't know for a fact. It's between him and God. Do you understand? And that's what's the hope of every Christian, every apostle. The hope was that if I said I go to prepare a place for you, that when I come again, I will receive you to me. So where I am, you will be there also. That's the hope of every Christian, not the hope of the lavish lifestyle that the world offers, that could possibly happen to us. We know in this life we're going to go through some sufferings and some trials and tribulations, and the lavish lifestyle may elude us to the very end. But we also know that God is in control. And that even if we don't get that White House with the white picket fence, that we'll get that castle, that kingdom made not with man's hands, but made with God's hands. That we'll achieve that living water that God promised us to all those that love him and be obedient to him and obey his commandments and live life righteously according to his word. Do you understand? That's how good God is. That's the promise we hope for. We're not hoping for the promise that we're going to have that big house. We're not. There's no guarantee. But we know we got a big house in heaven. Seek first heavenly things and all else will be added to you. Good health. You might go through things, but you'll make it through. That's a good thing. Seeing your grandkids and great-grandkids, that's a blessing from the Lord. The Bible says you can't take nothing with you. So I think a lot of people that confuse bringing your heaven on earth like building your kingdom here. But when you die, you're going to leave that to someone else. And in Proverbs, he said you don't know what they're going to do with their substance after you leave. Yes, he said a blessed man leaves a remnant to his kids, but you don't know what's going to happen after your death. I don't believe we're watching down to make sure they stay in line. That's what the angel's job for. That's what God's job is, not mine. Our job is to do the work of evangelists while we walk this earth. If God said he gives us rest after our work is done here, why would he put us back to work? Oh man, I hope you caught that. But people, I love you all. Keep me and my wife in your prayers. You understand? We go through some hardcore spiritual warfare a lot of times. Like the devil's trying his best to try to tear us apart. But and all those who are going to try to pray against us, I feel for you. I feel for you. You understand? All those that favor my righteous cause, like David said, great. Because I don't want to be many that don't favor your righteous cause or mine. But there are going to be some that God placed strategically. Just like when Paul got shipwrecked, those people welcomed them friendly after a shipwreck. They could have been met with harsh tidings by barbarians. Now, these were barbarians. That means like indigenous people. But they accepted Paul with open arms. Why? Because the glory and mercy and grace of God was upon his life. Even though he had enemies after him, he had people there to supply his every need, his lack. People, have a blessed day. Stay grounded in the faith. Don't let the enemy change you. Don't let the enemy pull you away from the Lord. Stay grounded in the faith. Stop seeking that White House with the picket fence. Start seeking the heavenly things. And if he wants you to have that White House with the picket fence, you will get it. But that's not your goal. Your goal is to reach heaven. Have a blessed day.